going to go ahead and share my presentation. Great. I assume everybody can see that. Okay. Well, good evening, and welcome to the Policy Plan Amendment, a focused meeting for the land use element. I'm Katrina Knutson with the Department of Planning and Development. I'm here with the Planning Division, and I'm here tonight also with David Stinson and Carly Aubrey, also with the Department of Planning and Development in the Planning Division. So these are the things that we'll be going over tonight. I'll kind of give you a project overview. I'll talk about the purpose of the comprehensive plan. I'll talk about the project timeline, the land use element, and then we'll have some questions and discussion at the end. I also have a slide with contact information and links as well. So on December 6, 2022, the Board of Supervisors authorized the consideration of a comprehensive plan amendment to update the countywide policy plan. The board directed us to do a few things: to review and update the various elements of the policy plan, explore the potential for new policy elements, and then to align the policy plan with other board adopted policies and initiatives. And we'd like to start first by providing a brief overview on the difference between the comprehensive plan and the county's regulatory documents to help frame the work of this amendment and future recommendations. The comprehensive plan is a guide that sets the land use vision for the county and is implemented through the development review process of zoning applications. The policy plan includes goals, objectives, and policies. Goals provide the general direction of the plan. Objectives include statements to help achieve those goals. And finally, the policies include specific approaches for pursuing an objective. The policy plan applies countywide, therefore it's important to ensure the policies developed are general and flexible enough to apply across the county, but also targeted enough to address the topics we are working to improve. The area plan volumes of the comprehensive plan provide specific guidance and recommendations pertaining to development within areas of the county to ensure that development is addressing area and site-specific considerations. And then the zoning ordinance is a regulatory document that applies to all structures and is intended to promote the health and safety and general welfare of the public and to implement the comprehensive plan. And finally, the Public Facilities Manual, or the PFM, provides the specific engineering guidelines for the development and construction of new development. So this meeting that you're attending tonight focuses on one of our policy plan elements, the land use element. Opportunities to learn about the work happening in other topic areas such as the environment, health, transportation, et cetera, can be found on the policy plan webpage, including past and future meetings. We're also having tables at existing community events like farmers markets. We've done several of those, and we'll also be having larger community meetings for the overall project in the January-February timeframe. And dates for those meetings are also provided on the project web page. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David to talk to a few slides then. David?
Okay, thank you, Katrina. I'm David Stinson with the Department of Planning and Development. I'll continue this presentation. These next slides outline how the county-wide objectives and policies are organized in the land use element of the policy plan. These objectives and policies are organized into 6 broad categories, which are land use pattern, land use intensity, pace of development, land use compatibility, and land conservation. In addition to these policies and objectives, there are currently 14 appendices that provide guidelines to address land use topics. Next slide, please. Thank you. A significant portion of the land use policy objectives are under the category of land use pattern, which includes objectives 1 through 11. These policies address the compatibility between various land uses, the geographic relationship of housing and employment, with policies aimed at achieving the overall goal of creating a more efficient land use pattern. Next slide, please. So an important objective of the land use element of the policy plan is objective 12. And this focuses on land use intensity and addresses the level of development consistent with a range of countywide goals. One important policy in objective 12 is policy A, which supports concentrating higher levels of development around areas of transportation advantage, such as the Tyson's Urban Center, other transit station areas, and the cores of suburban centers. Next slide, please. Objective 13 addresses the pace of development, which includes the provision of adequate transportation and public facilities to support new development. Next slide, please. Objectives 14 through 16 address land use compatibility, which includes policies that help minimize the associated impacts between different types of land uses, along with the use of urban design principles to increase the compatibility of adjoining uses. Next slide, please. The land conservation policy, which is objective 17, addresses the preservation of natural and heritage resources, and includes policies supporting the use of open space and conservation easements to implement the county's goals and objectives for the preservation of natural and heritage resources. Next slide, please. The land use section of the policy plan also includes appendices that address land use topics, which includes additional countywide guidelines and performance criteria to assess whether or not a new development proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And the topics in these appendices are listed on this slide. Next slide, please. So how is the land use element of the policy plan used? Well, Planning Division staff uses this section of the policy plan during the review of the comprehensive plan, which includes site-specific plan amendments, area-wide plan amendments, and county-wide policy plan amendments. It also plays an important role in the development review process, ensuring that new developments generally conform to land use policies. So next, Katrina Knudsen will provide some examples of how these policies from the land use element are used.
Great, thanks, David. So here are some slides, some pictures of what we refer to as transit-oriented development. So as an example, when evaluating a plan amendment or reviewing the land use components part of development review, we refer to transit-oriented development or TOD policies and guidelines found in the policy plan. And those are found in Objective 16. And we actually have a whole appendix for that, Appendix 11, which focuses on transit-oriented development. And the guidelines found in that appendix talk about how development should be oriented towards, like, for example, a transit station area. Usually, typically, we have more intense or denser development closer to the station. And as you get further from the station, the intensity and density decreases. Our TOD guidelines also talk about a mix of uses around the transit station areas. So including residential and office and often ground floor retail to create a more pedestrian-friendly environment. And it also talks about enhanced streetscapes in these transit-oriented development areas. So the slide has, these are our big picture goals that we are looking at right now. The board directed us to align policies with other county policies and initiatives. So we're doing that. We are also in the process of reviewing the language for clarity and making and simplifying it. We also plan to restructure the appendices and call them guidelines, and we'll organize those into broad topic categories. Because as David had showed you on that previous slide, we currently have 14 appendices that have kind of just been added to the land use element of the policy plan over the years. And we're going to be revising these guidelines as well and adding new guidelines as necessary. We will also weave other topic areas into the policies, such as the land use policies, such as equity, health, placemaking, and transportation. So those are some of the things that, big picture goals that we have. So, and then we have areas of research that include meeting the growing demand for housing, looking at how the demand for office and retail are changing, and evaluating the importance of industrial land in the county, and exploring new topic areas such as temporary or pop-up uses and placemaking. And to explain placemaking a bit, it's a process, or in this case, policies aimed at creating public spaces where people want to live, work, and play. So we have a few, we really, tonight are looking for your input, and we're just kind of wanting to know what your thoughts are regarding each topic, research topic area, and what are the challenges and opportunities that you see. And also, what are your thoughts on the current organization of policies and ideas within the land use section of the policy plan? So with that, I'll go ahead and end the presentation. I do have one more slide, though. I just wanted to show. So this is resources and contact information for the policy plan amendment. So I just wanted to show that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions that folks might have. So let's see here. Okay, so I think, okay. Joshua.
Yeah, I was wondering, how do we make sure that, well, let's see, sorry. How do we, focus on infill development? I mean, there's basically no virgin land left in Fairfax County. So, the only land left to develop is going to be infill.
Right. And so that's one of the things, one of the sections is pace of development. And right now that kind of, it's more oriented to kind of how the county used to be as far as pace of development and that sort of thing. And yeah, we're recognizing the fact that, yeah, we no longer have kind of like those green fields that we had in the 80s, or, prior to that, or even in the 90s. So yeah, we do recognize that we're going to be seeing more infill, and we'll have to, that is something that we're going to be looking at as far as in the land use element of the policy plan.
Okay.
Anne Bloss.
Hi.
Hi, Anne.
One question I have about the comprehensive plan is that I'm sorry, I don't have it open in front of me. I recall reading something about an area parcel near my house where the text seemed to be outdated. The area that I'm referring to is near Oakwood Road, and there was the land unit D, and there was some text about the upper portion of land unit D, or it might have been land unit E. And since that time, the Gunnell Estates neighborhood was developed, so that now, whatever that text that was, the upper portion or whatever it said, it's kind of confusing text. So
sure.
It just seemed like that's simply unclear. Perhaps in your effort to simplify language or clarify the text or something. I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head right now.
No.
I could email it to someone if there's if that's an opportunity to update that.
Sure. Well, okay. That sounds like what you're describing as area plans. So we have two separate sections of the comprehensive plan. So, oh, hi, Ann. Sorry, I don't like when you once you have your camera on. I'm like, I right you. So, that part of the that's actually part of the area plans. So that's where we get into very site either site specific language. So you're talking about land units. And with this policy plan update, we are only doing the policy plan, which are policies that cover the entire county. Now, there is a possibility as once this project is done as a follow-on motion that we could possibly start looking at the area plans. But it gets very complicated. Now, one of the things I could suggest to you would be we are going through we're going to be starting the site specific plan amendment process. And I'm actually participating, I'm the lead on that. And so you, as a community member, you are able to nominate changes to the area to a site specific nomination. You just have to have consent of the owner to do that. And so that is something you can do as part of that site specific plan amendment process. And we'll be accepting those nominations starting January 13th for 30 days, basically. So that is a possibility. But as part of this part of the policy plan update, we'll be just looking at those countywide policies.
Okay.
Okay. I guess Tyler.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Yeah, so on an earlier slide, I think you mentioned that you're trying to align some policies with other county policies. Are you or at liberty to share which one those are? Like, are we using like Arlington, for example, as like an exemplar of what we're trying to get to, like, especially with like TOD?
Yeah, well, actually, what I was describing is aligning policies within the different elements of the policy plan. So making sure that for example, I'll give you a good example. In the TOD example that I showed you, right now it specifically talks to rail stations, but the county also has BRT. And so one of the things that we need to do is align that kind of with our transportation element, and in doing so, kind of add BRT or just take that rail out, and then also aligning it with anything in the environment section or under transportation. So it's really more aligning it within the policy plan. And then when I was talking about other policies like the county strategic plan, aligning it with the strategic plan, aligning it with One Fairfax. So other kind of board policies that exist right now outside of the comprehensive plan. So that's more of what I was talking about.
Okay, gotcha. So different policies, not necessarily external, but just making sure they're all kind of congruent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and to some extent, some of the things that we're doing is looking at like kind of maybe best practices and planning, and some of the research that we were doing, and some of the white papers will look at other examples and other areas as kind of examples to look at, and so that's kind of part of the research that we're doing. But so that kind of goes to what you're talking about as well.
Yeah, sure, sounds good. And then I wasn't gonna, say anything bad about Arlington. I thought that was a good example, but no, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you. JW?
Hey, Katrina, this is Joy Waller.
Oh, hi. Hi, Joy. How are you?
Great. Sorry. I should change my name. All of my kids have the same initials.
Okay.
Makes it easier.
Oh, I got you. So when you go on, they go on calls, you don't have to change it.
Yeah,
I got you.
Sorry about that. Okay,
No problem.
so I have a couple questions. My first one is, and I guess I probably should have asked this a long time ago. Is there anything that limits development? For example, is there ever any sort of parameter that says, like, you know what, the traffic in this particular area is terrible. Maybe we shouldn't build anything else here until we get a handle on the traffic?
Well, I mean, as far as that, we typically, and again, that goes to more the area plans, but we typically look at level of service is one of the things that we in the past have looked at. And it depends on, the area. Like you're familiar with the Springfield CBC that talks about level of service E. And other parts of the county it would be level of service D. That's what we typically have looked at as far as, but again, that speaks to kind of a lot of some of the area plan things as well. But we do have things in the policy plan that speak to adequate facilities, public facilities, and that sort of thing.
Okay, I wasn't planning on asking this, but I will, because it's sort of related to, I'm glad you brought up the Springfield case, because, were you on the debacle of the land use committee meeting that took forever with 1 million votes? Were you on that one?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, that was pretty awful. Okay. The reason I'm asking is I don't even remember what the recommendation finally was, but I'm told that the Planning Commission didn't even know what the Land Use Committee recommendation was. Is that correct?
I don't believe that's true. No, I think they knew what the recommendation was.
They did? Because someone told me.
That was my understanding that they did.
Okay. So I guess, is that anywhere in the policy plan? And if not, can that be added? To say that, I know these land use committees are, I think every district has one. Is that correct?
It's organized differently. Yes, typically most districts do have them, but they're called something different or organized different based on the district. Kind of the structure can be different.
Okay. Because I mean, it seems like there should be something in policy somewhere acknowledging the way that residents have to provide. I mean, if this is the way that the county has designed for residents to share their feedback for each particular project, then it seems that that should be acknowledged. And I'm not entirely clear on whether that actually happens or not, either at the planning commission level or frankly anywhere else. But it seems like, and I know that some of the people on here probably have different philosophy than me, but personally, I always say we're not building a bigger fish tank. We're just putting more and more people in a fishbowl that is the same size, and eventually we are all going to be stuffed like sardines unless we find a way to make more density work. And so to me, it seems like traffic should be driving a lot of this, where, okay, we have the capacity to build more in this area, or whoops, we already have a messed up intersection that is going to make everyone miserable. Maybe we should get a handle on that first before we actually do any development in that area. But that's just an observation and a suggestion. But my other question was single family zoning. I caught a rumor that Commissioner Cortina made a comment about single family zoning going away. Is that potentially being considered as part of this?
Well, tonight we're not talking about zoning. We're just talking about the comp plan. And honestly, I haven't heard anything to the extent I am not sure what that kind of reference was. So no, I am not aware of that.
Okay, because I know that I think in the past, I believe Chairman McKay had said something to the effect of, after Arlington and Alexandria did their, I can't even remember the names, Missing Middle, I think was Arlington's, and basically attempting to do away with single family zoning and allow greater density in those formerly single family neighborhoods, that I thought Chairman McKay had made a comment about how we weren't at that place, anywhere near that place in Fairfax County, given just basically our size and the fact that there are additional places to develop.
That's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have another question, but I will let someone else take a turn. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Joy. Okay. Joshua? Did you have another? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I did. So, people who oppose any development in Fairfax County, they bring up like transit constantly, saying that it's impossible for us to go and fix the transit problems in this county. And therefore, there should never be any more homes built in this county. How do we change this plan so that people can't simply veto having new neighbors next to them?
Well, we do have policies in place as far as transit is concerned, and we do, okay, so the policy plan, I mean, okay, so the comp plan has a couple of different elements. Tonight, we're talking about the policy plan, which are county-wide policies. And, we will have there, and they typically are more broad policies. I mean, we wouldn't necessarily have, well, and then let me get to, then we have what we refer to as the concept for future development, which is in the area plans. And those are within the concept for future development, we have specific areas that we as a policy have concentrated growth. And, we talked to those a little bit in the policy plan on a higher level. And then, so, those are the areas in which we have historically and probably will concentrate growth in those areas. Those include things like, Tyson's. Those include things like a restaurant, the transit station areas. We have suburban centers. We have community business centers. Those are where we concentrate more of the mixed use. And we have where the employment growth is directed in the county. And so we have those policies that talk to that, and that's where we're concentrating more of that growth. I don't know how much that addresses, your question. I think there will always be kind of folks who aren't necessarily supportive of additional growth, and then we'll always have people who really do want more growth. And I think it's about striking a balance between that and also following the policies that we have that are in, and like I said, we're updating the policy plan. We're looking at the land use element, and we'll be looking at anything that kind of touches on that. So David, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I think you summarized it well. There are certain areas that are around transit that we're targeting for growth right now, like our activity centers and the concept for future development. So I think you summed it up well, Katrina.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that's enough, because there are people who are arguing that we shouldn't be able to develop Springfield, as the community business center there, as intensely as it's currently being developed, just simply because, like, even though it's near transit, I think that's insane. We have a deficit of tens of thousands of homes, and we need housing, and we can build up. But to say that we're going to not allow housing, it's giving up, and it's giving up on Fairfax County.
Yeah. And we have, and speaks to we have the board has policies talking about additional housing in the strategic plan, and those are things that we are definitely looking at, trying to align with those kind of the strategic plan, as well as looking at our equity policies too, because it can be a matter of equity too. So we are looking at all of those things and we'll be addressing those. Okay, let's see here. Renee?
Yeah, thank you. Could you speak more about data center specific information? I saw you had industrial uses listed there, and I know this is not zoning, but during the zoning ordinance amendment for data centers, they said, we'll be adding more to the policy plan. What's the plan?
Yep, I'm going to turn it over to Carly, because she is our environmental expert and can talk to the data centers. Okay.
Trying to find my mic. And let me lock my door so I don't get barged in. Okay. So the plan is, as Katrina and David mentioned earlier how the land use element currently has all the appendices, which will be kind of reframed as guidelines. So the plan right now is to include policies related to data centers in a guidance section for the land use element. And it will really focus on those items that were not able to be addressed or fully addressed in the zoning ordinance due to, bill and rule and state authority limitations. So, so things we're looking at is energy demand, water quality, air quality, noise, although that was also addressed in the zoning ordinance, and then site and building design. And site and building design, there's also the zoning ordinance did include some regulations for that. But kind of the thought is that it would probably focus more on those environmental impacts. So, and we're waiting on, not waiting, but we are kind of waiting to see what JLARC does, that study that the Joint Legislative Audit Review Committee of the General Assembly, what their study is going to include in terms of, they're looking at a lot of the same issues. And then that might also provide guidance in any possible additional authority that local jurisdictions might be granted in regulating and guiding data center development. So that's kind of where we're at. Looking at those more environmental issues, and then also tracking what JLARC and also the SEC, I just found out, is doing a study also, the State Corporation Commission, looking at data centers and particularly the energy issue. So kind of looking at all these things floating around and getting some stuff into the land use element.
Thank you. That's helpful. For a quick follow-up, do you know if you're looking at the EU standards at all to just understand what's happening over there?
We might be looking at those, and we might, there's also the ASHRAE standards that actually the Virginia Building Code references. So we will be looking at the different standards for energy that are used and try to encourage, using one or the other or both. It depends on, it's something we need to look into more, is what would be more effective in reducing the energy demand.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see. There was a question here in the chat I want to get to, several comments, but this question was, is there funding that the public has access to for their own personal development projects they would like to implement? I'm not aware of anything, that there's funding that's available. Let's see here. And is there any other? I'm just looking at. Okay, the other thing is, how can the community engage in projects they would like to develop? So if you, one of the, I don't know if you were just meaning by how you can get involved in these. We do have a listserv that you can sign up for, and you can get information from the planning division on comprehensive plan amendments. That's one way, and I don't have that. Don't have that right off the top of. I don't know if Carly or David, if you would have a chance to find the listserv announcement where people can sign up for that. Sorry, maybe we can put that in the chat. And that's true, Joy, I think put in there about you can get involved in your local land use committee. That is also another way to get involved. And then, those are kind of the ways that I would I would suggest that you can keep an eye on land use in your local area, or any projects that we may have as far as the comprehensive plan is concerned. Okay, so let's see here. I have, I think, Josh, did you have another question? Joshua, sorry. Or maybe you just had your hand up from earlier. Okay. Anne, did you have another question?
Hi, yeah, I do.
Okay.
So I probably need a little more clarity on the function of the policy plan.
Sure.
So what I'm thinking is when I see reluctance for developing more housing, I think it might really be like a concern that commensurate infrastructure needs to be involved. Like it might not actually be resistance to more housing, but that the picture needs to be completed with appropriate transportation and schools and police and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just my guess from observations. I can't speak for everybody, but I know that that's the biggest concern that I think that I hear. So I'm not sure if that's something. I don't know if the policy plan, if the policy plan is about enumerating the steps to do stuff, or if there's a way to particularly call out the importance of surrounding infrastructure. You mentioned that part of your task was to coordinate with other county priorities.
Mm-hmm.
I know you already got a question on this, so that might actually be my question. Is explicit language might help the problem if the language and the process could be very explicit, particularly around transportation, because that's always the easiest thing to notice, on how to coordinate. And I know that's hard because transportation is also a state level thing, but perhaps that might be something to aim for in the depending on the purpose of the policy plan. I'm not really sure. So I guess that's my question: is that a recommendation that I can put forward here in this environment, or is that a misconception of what the policy plan does?
No, and David and Carly, if you feel free. Sorry, I don't mean to keep it. I just, I mean, the policy plan is an appropriate place for that. We do have, guidelines that talk about adequate, adequate infrastructure, but they're going to be, again, countywide. And then we also have the appendices that talk about their guidelines. And I just so you know, I put in the chat, I put a link to go to the policy plan itself. So if you want to take a look at that, you can. So, there are guidelines for things such as multifamily resident. So when we're reviewing a development proposal more in the context for development review or rezoning, we often will look at these guidelines. We have, guidelines for multifamily residential. We have guidelines for neighborhood redevelopment, residential development criteria, that sort of thing. So there are some broad policies that do talk to some of the things that you're talking about, but again, they're going to be at the county, their county-wide policies.
Which I think is actually what I would want to recommend, is that a county-wide assurance of thorough coordination, regardless of location.
Sure. And just so, I mean, we do, when we review comprehensive plan amendments, and when we do look at the policy plan, we do a review starting from, policies at the policy plan level all the way down to, the very site specific recommendations. And we do also, we coordinate with a lot of the agencies in the county. You've been been to several of the meetings that I've been at presenting to, and we coordinate with basically kind of all of the sections that are in the policy plan. We coordinate with kind of staff at those levels. We coordinate with transportation. We coordinate with housing. I mean, Carly is often in looking at plan amendments from an environmental perspective. We look at heritage resources, we look at public facilities, we look at parks and rec, and we do look at all of those things. So, and like I said, we do use the policy plan when we are reviewing more site-specific plan amendments to the plan of comprehensive plan, or when we're doing planning studies. So, okay. Sorry.
One confusion, I guess, is the difference between a zoning change and a comprehensive plan amendment.
Sure.
When there is a concurrent or almost concurrent zoning change along with the comprehensive plan amendment, that seems like it's not a comprehensive perspective, almost by definition. I know that it feels very much like a lot of changes a lot of comprehensive amendments are turning into zoning discussions, and the lines they feel like they're getting blurred.
Well, in the concurrent cases, I wouldn't say they get blurred because typically the comprehensive plan, we we have anytime you have a rezoning, it has to sorry, the verb always eludes me, but it has to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan. Sorry, the word wasn't coming. It has to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So we're looking at the policies in the plan, and there are a lot of policies in the plan that aren't necessarily in the zoning ordinance. So we go to the plan, and part of that process, they're going to be looking at that. Now, we also have rezoning cases that don't have to look at the comprehensive plan because they already are in compliance with the comprehensive plan. So it's just a strict rezoning. So we, again, every comprehensive plan amendment, whether with the site specific, we are looking at all of these various elements. We have staff involved. There is an involved review of the cases. But anyway, we're kind of getting away from the policy plan discussion that kind of tonight, and I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty, but yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay. I think I have Joy as number one here on my hands, and then after that will be Mary.
I'll cede to Mary because she hasn't had a chance to speak yet, and I'll speak after her.
Okay. Mary, hi. How are you doing this evening?
Hi. This is on the same topic, but it's not long. I'm just wondering, when a new development goes in, people in the neighborhood do all assume that you're not thinking about the schools or the traffic or anything else. And I think you have some very precise guidelines on what you have to do as you increase the number of units and how you find the number of kids and all that. Is that written down in an appendix somewhere? And if so, where? It would be really good to kind of be able to show people and say, look, this is the process they use.
Sure. The school's information isn't in the policy plan, but we do have there are guidelines that we use, and they're actually on the Fairfax County Public School website. If you give me a second, I don't know if I can find it quickly, but I don't know. We do have that information is on the Fairfax County Public Schools, and
Do you
that's
have
as
like
part
a
of their.
checklist? You have to go down to consider traffic, schools, environmental, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, so basically we have a set of staff and a set of departments that we always contact, and that we have. You know, what happens is that we get a plan amendment in, and then we'll have what we refer to as a pre-staffing meeting, and all, you know, the staff members will attend that meeting. You know, they receive the memo. We ask for their review as part of that. So we have a process by which we follow, and schools is part of that. They have a protocol that they use. They have information that they provide us, and you know, they have formulas that they use. And again, those are all on the FCPS website. They have information on their capital improvements program, and with that, they also have information on development, like what their formulas are that they use. So all of that information, you know, is available. I don't know if David, if you Ray or Carly, if you'd able to find that and throw that in the chat.
Oh, I'm looking for it right now.
Okay, great, thanks, appreciate it. So you know, that information is there, and as far as you know, other types of things, yes, we have, for example, the Parks and Rec on the let me get to that as an example. That's actually in the policy plan where we have the parks classification system, which actually that classifies the different types of parks. And then they also have the urban parks framework that also sends out standards for urban parks. And then we have standards and criteria for establishment of parks and recreational facilities. So that actually all lives in the policy plan. That's another element, and that's another meeting, but that's the Parks and Rec part of the you know, the policy plan. And again, so that's
okay.
there.
So
Sorry.
I have a policy recommendation based on that, and it would be to put into the policy plan that you make available kind of a plain language, kind of medium detail set of the processes that you would go through if a building with more residents is being considered for a certain site.
Okay, so like a process.
The process and what you're looking at, and
process of
how you
review for.
Doesn't have to be every single you know, measurement and 2 feet for this and 6 feet for that, but it has to be the what you're reviewing and why you're reviewing it and what you come out of. If there's so many people added, then the schools examine it to see how many of each age or whatever it is they're looking at. Because people don't know this, or at least they say they don't know it quite a lot in public hearings. And it would be really good if there was something that you could give them that explained this process.
Okay, that's
in enough detail to know what you were doing, not just we're going to have a meeting and then we're going to have another meeting, but you know, it says what we're looking at, why we're looking at that, what the result would be.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it, Mary. Okay, so let's see here. Joy.
You alluded to something before, and I've heard it multiple times. And is it something like, I think you were saying that people, something about living, working, and playing in Fairfax County. Say that again? What was that?
The term placemaking, I think that's what that was referring to. I think so. Placemaking is just a process or policies aimed at you know, making public spaces or places, you know, a place where interesting place to live, work, and play. Some of the elements of placemaking, often people talk about streetscapes. They talk about, you know, the sidewalks. They talk about the landscaping, street trees. You know, even like public parks and public open space can be part of kind of placemaking. Placemaking is kind of it can mean, I'll admit this, it can mean something different to everybody. To to, and each community might have an idea of what it means to make, to do placemaking in their community. Anyway, but that is something that we are an element that we're looking at to kind of weave in to the land use element of the policy plan.
Okay, I can sort of understand. I mean, I do understand the placemaking issue. My
Mhm.
question is more because you've probably been observing there's been a chat that has been talking about basically about density and growth and development and things. And I personally think that there needs to be an appropriate balance. But my question is like, is the Board of Supervisors, is the direction basically, I don't know how to ask this question. Is the direction basically that anyone who wants to live in Fairfax County should be able to live here? Is that because we say that there's a deficit of thousands of homes, and
Mhm.
I'm not entirely clear where that comes from, because there is of course no right to live where you want to live just because you really, really, really want to live there. Like I would like to live in Malibu. I can't afford it, so I live here. And so I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, is the goal to just make so much housing that anyone who wants to live here can? Because that doesn't really seem like a balance to me.
It's I think goal is to create options at all different price points, and to create the ability to basically so that people can afford to live and also work in Fairfax County. That's one of the goals of the board, is to create more housing, more affordable housing in the county, so that people do have housing options and can have the option to live in Fairfax County.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that we also
Mary
have to create the jobs and housing balance in the county, and that also goes to address those transportation issues, because if you can live where you work or live close to where you work, you're not on the road, you're not traveling as far, you have the option of using transit. So it's that idea of creating a balance, so that you don't have to you work in Fairfax County, and it's also an employment issue too, Joy. It's also a matter of providing housing for employees, so employers want to locate in Fairfax County too. Because one of the biggest issues I know that I hear from the board members saying is that they hear from employers that they don't one of the biggest issues for employers is that they don't have places for their employees to live. And so that's why it's one of the biggest priorities for the Board of Supervisors, because they want to be, it's important to attract employers to the county for, obviously for the health of the economy of the county, but they also need places for employees to live.
Yeah, I understand that, and that all sounds good. I guess my problem as a taxpayer is that I recently learned we're spending all this money to put people in hotels, and then when we have some affordable housing that the county taxpayers have subsidized, there's no residency preference. So we're not taking care of our own people first. And that's where, like I said, when there's people coming in from other jurisdictions before people who are living in hotels currently in Fairfax County are getting housing, I have a big problem with that as a taxpayer. But I think we've wandered a bit. So thank you.
Okay, great. Yep. And David put the student yield ratio formulas for Fairfax County Public Schools. He put that in the chat. Thanks, David. I think okay. Mary, I don't know, Mary, did you still have your hand up, or do you have another question, or?
No.
Oh, okay. Then Joshua. I think Joshua, did you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
no, I would like there to be so much housing that prices come down. See, the thing is that, the county set out a goal for themselves to build 10,000 dedicated affordable units. And this is, the county helping to subsidize, or in many cases, or asking developers to subsidize it, the cost of the housing. But if you can just allow developers to simply build enough housing, then the price will come down, and we don't have to worry about, oh, is someone coming out from who doesn't deserve housing? Well, it doesn't matter if they don't deserve it or not, because if they can pay for housing, they can live in Fairfax County.
Okay.
Sorry, I know that's not really a question.
All right. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other questions
Mary
or
has her
any.
hand up.
Oh, well, yeah, I think
Yeah.
Mary did. Yeah, okay. I think, yeah, I think Mary
Yeah.
and Joshua still have their hand. That's
Oh,
fine. I
sorry.
won't call. No, it's all right. No problem. I think, does anybody else have any questions? I think most of this is a discussion in the chat. Uh, okay. Okay. I don't know if, okay, well, like I said, this, let's see, okay. I think, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just looking through the chat, making sure I'm not forgetting any questions or any comments that okay. Well, I think it's been a lively discussion tonight. I appreciate it, everybody. Like I said, this recording will be available online. It might take a little bit of time, but I hopefully maybe Monday of next week, because it's a long story, but we have to post it, and so. But it will be available, and if you have any other questions, the email is available. Let me go ahead and really quickly put that in the chat. Sorry, everybody, bear with me so I can copy and paste that and put that in the chat. Just give me 1 second, sorry. This is an email. There we go in the chat. So if any of you all have questions, feel free to send your questions to that email, or you can go to the Plan Forward website as well and find out. And there will be more meetings in the future. We're going to probably have some more larger meetings come in the beginning of the new year, January, February timeframe, that will have all of the topics on that. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining tonight. I appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.